when you get an offer, you'll do another one with the offer that describes the listing purchase price. And I started recording late, so I'll do the first few documents at the end of this recording, just so it's all in one big recording. Um, and really, so you seller, buyer, and buyer is TBD. So you don't
Yeah.
have a buyer now, so you're just filling in the blank. Settlement date is pick a date. It really doesn't matter because all you're doing here is when they're signing and they're saying, "Oh, I'm selling for $200,000." They understand they're not getting 200,000 out. That's all
Yeah.
you're doing here. Preparation of deed, and again, we're guessing here because we don't know what the title company's
Do
going to
I
say. Go ahead.
your fee is different than the broker's fee here, right? Like the you get $800 per transaction for me, but I'm not putting in
Exactly.
800 here, right?
No, do you, no. So
Okay.
that's a great question. So you're putting in the broker's fee because every fee is paid to the broker and then you're paid from it. So you're putting in here, you know, whatever 2.5% or whatever if $200,000 you agree to 3%, 6 grand's going in here.
Okay.
They don't
Okay.
care or need to care how much you're taking versus I'm taking. So
Yeah. Okay.
I'm glad you clarified that because that's actually kind of a confusing way to phrase it. So transfer tax,
And
obviously,
sorry,
yeah.
maybe I should have led with this a little bit. So I'm gonna go meet with this family next Wednesday. Uh,
Okay.
I have an idea of what I think the house should list for. They had it listed before and it didn't sell, but I think they had it listed too high. Um, so like I don't have to fill out the estimated like seller's estimated cost until like we know what it's going to list for, right? Like it
Oh
doesn't.
God, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay. Like it
I
doesn't
mean,
make. Okay.
yeah, no, no, no.
Yeah. Okay. So I've done like 100, maybe 200 of these for all my own deals. So I'm cool here. Uh,
Okay. Yeah. So basically, so seller estimated costs, listing agreement, and consumer notice. I'm just going to scan through these, and then of course property disclosure and seller disclosure. That's really all you need. The wire fraud notice. If they're not wiring any money, that's not necessary at this point. I do give it to them when we sign a sales agreement with the buyer. So if their money's being wired, then they know they might be at risk at wire fraud. But so estimate of costs, consumer notice, listing agreement, boom. Um, and you can however you fill it in, whatever. And if you now when you make a loop, real quick, just in case this wasn't shown before, when you create every loop has an email address that you can add a document by emailing it in. So if you were to bring paper over, sign paper with them,
oh
when you
yeah.
make a
Okay.
loop, it gives you an email address and it goes right in here.
Yeah. So that was one of my other questions for my other deal that where I'm going to be. I think I'm going to be the buyer. Um, they're probably not going to sign electronically.
Yeah.
So I'm going to print out the. So if you want to scroll down, it is it's 133 up one more.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I gotta archive those. Those were two test ones. It's the first. It's gonna be on the right. Keep going down. It's that first one right there, next to the Butters Bubbles laundromat. 133 Broadland.
Oh, Broadland, New Cousins. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, we
So
have to open a separate account, so I'm not showing everybody's loops here.
um, so here I just kind of emailed them the documents, a PDF, and then I'm gonna take a printout uh, when I meet with them next week and hopefully sign
Yeah.
while I'm on site.
And so when you get it, assuming you do it on site with paper, every single loop has its own email address.
Yeah.
And so
Okay,
you
that's
just
awesome.
email it over. And I did this once with a combined document set. And unless I'm mistaken, because it broke it into several different documents when it came in here. I didn't look to see if it broke it up right. But if you make one big scan, it probably tries to figure out which documents are in there. But anyway, if it comes in as one document, it comes in as several documents, doesn't matter. It's here. Um, so what other questions do you have on the listing agreement or on how to run comps or anything like that?
Um, let's talk about. So it is still $800, right? Like that. That was an easy one.
Yep. Yep.
Um, I got the listing docs. Okay. Um,
Now, on the 800, if you end up in a situation where like, and please, okay, so let me back up to commission. On the listing agreement, you can also set a minimum commission. You can say, I'm doing 2.5%, but I'm not going below 4 grand or whatever your number is.
yeah.
And so, but if you ever, so I always do that. Personally, my number is 4 grand. I'm not going to work for less than 4 grand. I mean, unless something's really unusual, but for the most part, that's my line. If you end up in a situation where that's not the line and you end up with, hey, listen, the total commission's only $1,400, talk to me. In specific cases, I can flex the 800, but it's got to be like, there's got to be a really good reason. Like your whole commission's only $1,000. I'm not taking 80% of it from you.
Yeah, I mean, I really appreciate that. I do have one where I'm like getting murdered on the fees.
Yeah.
So quick tangent. If you go back into dot loop, you'll see 334 West 10th, I think it is. I mean, not that you have to necessarily pull up the docs, but that one, this woman, she owes 108,000 on her house. She wants to move to Florida. She agreed to 110 because that'll pay off her mortgage and gives her a little bit of money, maybe, to apply to some moving expenses. I don't think that this is. I'm gonna have a hard time moving this even for 115, let alone 120. If it sells for 115, because of the type of lead this was, uh, I'm gonna owe. It's an iSpeed to lead that Property Sellwise is partnered with, so we're not paying for these leads up front, but they take 33% of the wholesale.
Okay.
So if I get a 5K wholesale on this, I owe them almost 1,700. I owe you 800, and I owe Sellwise 400.
Right.
So I'd be left with around a little less than 2 grand. But I mean, like, I'm not, I'm not really worried about it. Like at the moment, I think right now uh, things are going well enough that if these things close, I'll start worrying about like how to save money moving forward.
Yeah, and basically, and I'll be honest, I don't have a firm line, and I kind of miss. If you don't mind telling me, how much do you pay Sellwise out of that?
8%. They get 8%.
Okay, all right.
So
Um,
400 on that. Yeah.
well, yeah, I mean, and so I don't have a firm line on where I would start squeezing my side of it. I think that okay, and again, like on this particular case, I'm not speaking to this case, even though you broke it all down. But like, is if you're making more than I am, if you're making more than $800, I'll probably say, well, okay, maybe I will, if you're making a couple times what I'm making, maybe I wouldn't cut the price. So basically, pretty much whenever you think it's reasonable for us to have the conversation about, hey, this one doesn't really leave me with enough to make it worth it. Let's have the conversation. I don't have a promise of, I don't like have a set line of where that happens.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm not saying this is or isn't that. I don't at all need to go there, but I'm just saying that I floated out there, and what you're laying out is a great example. Hey, I'm giving a third of this, and you know, this is exactly the kind of story I need someone to come to me with and say, hey, this is the deal, and this is why I think it is. Ryan and I are doing a deal right now that, for various reasons, trying to help this woman out of a tough situation. We're going to be splitting because he and I at the time were 50-50 on wholesale business. We're going to be splitting, $2,500, including what Gorilla's making. So, okay, should Gorilla take a little bit of a haircut? So like, anytime we're at a point where you think it's worth talking about, let's talk about it. Basically,
Okay.
uh, and
Appreciate that. Um,
it's out there.
I don't think this is ever going to close, but I wanted to verify with you. It's one of, if you remember, it was like one of my first leads. I reached out to you about like if you had any contacts in Ohio. So I ended up JVing with another
Yeah.
wholesaler in Pittsburgh who has reach into Ohio, and I just handed the lead off to him. He got it under contract. There is a chance that property is going to sell, and I'm going to get money. That would not go through you, though, right?
So that's where it gets technically. So if you okay, so technically you're not supposed to get paid except through the brokerage firm, but and I have to think about whether so he's unlicensed or he's licensed.
He's licensed, but
Okay,
I don't know what his situation is in Ohio. I don't know how he's doing it in Ohio, and that's one of the reasons I went the JV deal.
right.
Is I didn't send it. I never made an offer. I talked to the seller. I sort of qualified the lead, and then I handed it off to someone who as far as I understand, he has the legal right to work and operate in Ohio.
Okay, so a couple things. I'm actually in communication right now with the Ohio Commission about exactly what we can and cannot do, the Ohio Licensing Board. And it seems fairly straightforward. It's something I'll have worked out shortly. So in the future, and I do have buyers in Ohio. I was just afraid to touch Ohio at the time when you talked
Yeah.
because of what's going on in Oklahoma. So we will have clarity on Ohio hopefully by the end of this month. Now back to this. If a situation like that, in order to make it perfectly legal, if it were coming from a licensed broker and they were to send me the check, one of two things would happen. They would simply say, "Hey, I've got a $500 check to give to Chris," and I would either say, "Hey, go ahead and send it to Chris directly. Thank you for telling me," or I would say, "Send it to me," and I would just pass it right on to you. If
Okay.
it's a deal we never touched, it never hit our E&O, I don't need a piece of it. I just haven't, and honestly, I haven't wanted to spend the money on the attorney to get the guidance. I haven't figured out. I want to be either aware of it or have the money flow through Gorilla, and I think I just want to be aware of it. I think I just want somebody saying, "Hey, Chris did this consulting for me," and boom. That way, it's in my files. If anybody says, "Well, how?" I say, "This is the deal."
Okay. Yeah, I'm cool with that.
So so
I
so I,
appreciate
I
that.
I haven't built the system yet around it, but I know that system needs to exist. And the same thing on the way out. Like I'm doing this right now because Ryan, although he's coming back to this brokerage firm, he's with another broker right now, and I've got to pay him something. So I simply contacted the broker, and the broker sent me an email back saying, just pay Ryan directly. I understand it. It happened. We both understand it. Great. Because I don't think the state's ever going to come and say, well, this should have happened a different way if both brokers agreed to it. I don't really see it being a problem. And so anyway, I appreciate you telling me. I will create a form for it this week, just so when it happens, you'll say, "Hey, I filled this out. I've created it. It's here, done." Um, all right, good. Yeah, so that's
So,
good. What's the next question?
um, do I have to do? I have to do a competitive market analysis, right? A CMA.
So you don't have to do a CMA. So what I do with mine, I'll just kind of show you like what I do on this is what do we? I always use Grove Street because it's one of my properties. Um, oh, they've finally expired it after like 9 years. Okay, fine. So what I do, so CMA is. By the way, you can get paid by banks for doing CMAs if you really want the $75, but it's a good way to learn this, and they're fairly easy in here. But what I do for any of my clients who say, "Hey, what's this property worth?" or da da da, I do the draw a circle, is I will um, literally draw a circle around the property of about a half mile, and then I will go in here and I will select whatever boards it's giving me access to. West Bend's obviously a different animal is how they do it. And then I will select the property type. And then the most important field I will select here is I will select the status of closed. The reason is it's the only
Yeah.
status that gives you what it actually sold for.
Yeah.
And then I'll say, okay, show me the list. And then of course I'll narrow the list based on property criteria, whatever, whatever.
Yep. Yep.
And then for my investor clients, I'm just sending them the circle. And I'm saying, here's everything. I'm selecting whatever is compatible. I'm emailing them the circle and saying, there you go. Yes, a CMA is better. A CMA is more accurate. You're not required to do one, and you're certainly allowed to. Sometimes you charge for it, sometimes you don't. But just they do take a little longer to do. They're typically more accurate because in the CMAs you're doing adjustments like, what's a two bedroom versus a three bedroom? What's an extra 1,000 square feet worth
Oh,
even
that's
if
right.
bathroom matches? And that means you have to look at things with and without garages and try to determine what a garage is worth. Honestly, I hate that. Like it's not
Yeah.
fun. So I certainly don't do it for every seller. And a lot of times you can get very close to looking at something and saying, oh, okay, so I see that I see a row house and I see two or three row houses that sold for this price, whatever, whatever. I see, okay, so 45,000 for a two bedroom, 1,100 square feet, 80,000 for this. Okay, boom. And of course, the one thing I do though is I do go into the circle enough and I start looking at the pictures because I want to know, is this a dipped in gold or is this a, grandma special or what am I looking at here? Um, so I will do that for almost every client. I'll draw the circle. I'll look at the few samples that I think are worth whatever, because you're educating yourself as much as anything else. And personally, although I'll have done this all before I get there, and I'll have saved this CMA and I'll have emailed it to myself or whatever, so when I'm meeting with the client, a lot of times I will also bring it up live and let them see me do the search live, only to show them that I'm not pulling any punches. But that's again a personal case by case. So CMA you don't have to. Some sort of market analysis you should do.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. That okay. I actually thought the CMA was required, so that's why I was asking about it.
I mean, now if they in your training said it was out there, then let's talk about that because that would be the first time I've heard it, kind of thing. Now also there's several different kinds of CMAs. So there's full, quick, and statistical. So even if I was going to do one, I probably wouldn't do a full. Um, I probably would do a quick. But you know, but
Yeah.
basically, and it also all depends on, um, it also all depends on the market. Meaning, like out where I am, not that it's homogeneous, but like okay, within Wilkes-Barre, it doesn't take a full CMA to know what something's worth. um, Kind of thing. So I will double check with the hotline on Monday to make sure that CMAs have not become required, but I almost never do them.
Okay.
And but but not to sound so with my sellers and with my non-investor clients, I don't just send them the circle and have fun. I draw the circle and send the circle to my investor clients who know what they know what they're looking at.
Yeah.
For my
Okay.
sellers, I'm looking deep. Like not. I mean, and CMAs only take like 20 minutes, so like it's not a bad idea to do them at all. There's never a it's a bad idea to do it. But I will look like you should look before you meet them deep enough in the market and be able to say, well, this is why I think you're not really worth Dodson Lane money. I think you're worth Hill Street money
Yeah.
because this is why. Because that's I mean they're coming to us for expertise in the market. They're coming to us for understanding how to compare things. So when you're dealing with a residential, civilian, wrong term for the purpose, but whatever, you know, they don't know better. When you're dealing with a guy that buys and sells a dozen houses a year, he can just take the circle and know what he's looking at.
Yeah.
So for you going into this meeting, I would definitely, and probably it's probably worth for your purposes doing the CMA. Because the CMA, the one thing I do like about it, even though I've kind of downplayed it this entire time, is when you're doing the CMA, it does ask you a lot of good questions very often, things you would not have thought about in going through the process. So it's not I made it sound like don't do it, but I'm remembering now that you're not dealing with a professional investor and you're kind of newer to this. So it will ask you some very good comparison information. Subject comps adjustments is the section that you're going to find a lot of fun with. Um, Of course,
Okay.
so
I just got a couple more things. I don't want to take
yeah.
up too much more of your time. Uh, the the for sale sign, is that like I don't want you to order or ship that yet, but is that kind of as simple as I say, like if I go there Wednesday and I confirm that I got the listing, do I text you and you get a sign shipped, and then I
Yeah,
got to go put it in,
I mean,
is it like a service that somebody's going to print it and go install it for me?
no, no, no. Well, okay, so basically, at the prices, I don't mind sending you a couple, just having you hang on to them, kind of thing. There's no services built into the 800. There's no printing built into the 800. Like if I send you
Yeah,
the
no,
800,
yep,
and you need more, you go get them. Like I'll send you the first one, whatever. That's fine. And it may not even be worth sending. It may cost more to send it than the actual sign costs to make. But whatever. But basically, pretty much, I'll just mail you one down, pretty much.
okay. So that's going to be the literal sign, but like getting it somebody like getting it installed and like the traditional sort of post of one of those for sale signs, like where do I find that?
So I mean, so the signs that we use, and you can invest in the heavier signs if you want. The signs that I have are just those corrugated ones that stick on the wire legs or the plastic legs. So literally,
Okay.
you walk over, you stick them in the ground. The Century 21 thing with the 4x4 and all that fancy stuff. You can do that. That's entirely your choice. But I don't see those very often anymore. Um,
Yeah, I think
what
you're right.
Yeah, I mean, now what I have, and this one would not be reasonable for me to mail you just because of its size, is I have a couple that are in aluminum like legs and stuff, and I just think trying to ship something that's 3 feet tall would just be absurdly expensive. And probably probably it would be worth you ordering a couple signs and just having them. I'll send you one down, but whatever. But basically, the other thing is a lot of times I don't use my signs a lot, truthfully, which is one of the reasons I don't mind sending them because a lot of times things are wholesale and they move too quickly.
Yeah,
But
sure.
basically, if you get the vinyl sign, or if you want to upgrade it a little bit, you get like I'll send you a vinyl sign. You upgrade it a little bit, you get the aluminum sign. Now, the only other reason to print your own sign is this sign is going to have my number on it. It won't have your number on it.
Right.
So, which I don't care. I get the call. I simply say, "Hey, this call came
Yeah,
in."
I mean with the signs, it's more to let everybody know that drives by. Like I've never
That's
looked
all it
at a
is. Yeah.
sign and thought like I'm going to call that person. I pull it up on Zillow, right? Like that's
Yeah.
and I just want to make sure that you know, like I don't I think like open houses they don't necessarily help, but I do feel like it's one of these boxes I have to check for the sellers. Um,
Exactly. Exactly.
okay. The
And on open houses, this is what my old broker taught me the first day. He's like, you almost never make a sale at an open house. What you do
yeah,
meet
right.
is a crap load of buyers.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
now, if they're okay, so and real quick, and then I'll move on. But the buyer or seller that you meet during a transaction, meaning not your seller, somebody else's client, you cannot poach them for that house. So if they come to your open house and they're looking at your house, you can't poach them for that. But if they call you for a different property, now, assuming they're not under an exclusive agreement with the other agent, that's a different question. But basically, just because they're working with another agent right now doesn't mean that you can't let them know if they want to work with you in the future, they can reach out to you. So
yeah.
we can cover that more, but just so you know that's it's not they belong to somebody else forever. They don't. They belong for the term of their contract.
Okay, so last thing is showing time. I mean, I do you have experience using showing time?
I love showing time. I wish,
Okay,
and maybe there is, I haven't looked in a while. I love it because you never touch the listing. You never touch the scheduling portion. Um, so I'm trying to think. So basically within showing time, and I don't have any active MLS listings, so I'm kind of stalling. I should probably put one in here so I have it. But yes, so what you do with showing time is you now is this house occupied? Like seller living there, someone living there?
Yeah, yeah. Seller lives there. Yeah,
Okay. So you in showing time want to put in the who is contacted when they fill out showing time.
yeah,
Um, you want to put in, and I'm just trying to see. You want to put in the seller as a decision maker on the showing, basically. So the agent will say, "I want to show it tomorrow at 2," and the seller gets to decide. I always put in, and I'm happy to look at your listing when you get to that point. I want 48 hours notice. In reality, you'll never get that, but
yeah,
again. So 24 hours is the law. Obviously, it's the seller; they can do whatever the hell they want. Um, the other thing that I put into showing time is say to the seller, listen, when can't we come? You know,
yeah. Right,
you know,
right.
if you're Orthodox something, Saturdays are off limits. Okay, let the buyer's agent know that, and be like, okay, I'm going to block out
And
Saturdays. Yeah.
it's assumed on like okay showings at 4 p.m. on Wednesday. It's assumed that the sellers are gonna vacate the house at 4 p.m. on Wednesday for 30 minutes or whatever to allow. They're not gonna stay there, right?
They can do whatever they want, but it's assumed that the buyers are going to be left alone. I do
Yeah,
tell myself, okay, so several things. It's assumed that they're going to contain any animals that are, in
yeah,
the,
right, right.
and even I'd say contain any animals because who knows what allergies. And if there are animals in the house, I'd put that in the private listings. House is occupied by dogs, so if someone has allergies, they can just be aware. Also, if the seller has any requirements like gloves and booties, I mean, going back to the COVID days, have that conversation. They don't
Yeah,
have to leave, but I would advise that they should number one leave the buyer and buyer's agent alone because just out of respect,
yep,
and number two is tell the seller they don't want to listen because they don't want to know what these people are saying about their house. It's not going to make
yeah,
them feel
right,
good.
right.
So I mean, and the other thing you got to tell the sellers is that no one, okay, we can't stop anyone from just knocking on the door and just being a pain in the butt, but the buyer is accompanied by, and if they're not, don't let them in, a licensed agent. So in terms of security, and I mean, yeah, hide your valuables to a certain extent, but in terms of security, there's a licensee in the building with that buyer. So security is a little less of a concern. I still wouldn't like leave any valuables like be stupid because the buyer might walk away from the buyer's agent. But you can tell the seller that listen, a licensee who's had a background check is accompanying this buyer. So you're reasonably safe. It's not like you're in an unsafe situation, not like a for sale by owner.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I mean, they don't have to necessarily vacate their home, but I think most do. I really do.
Okay. All right, man. That was it for now. I really appreciate the time, especially on a Saturday.
No,
Uh,
no, no, no problem. One other thing though is, I don't know how to say this nicely, so I'll say it the not nice way. The seller has to keep their mouth shut, and
yeah,
by that I mean everything about protected classes and racial and all, da, 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 da. They can't make any judgment calls. They can't say anything like, "Gee, I think you might be happier somewhere else," or "It's a nice Christian neighborhood." But also not hiding material facts, but also don't volunteer. Well, the toilet sometimes runs. A little innocuous thing like that, and that's kind of a dumb example, could blow it up. So it's better if the seller is simply silent. I mean, if they're asked a
yeah.
question, so yeah,
I had a seller yesterday tell me that the neighborhood's pretty much all Caucasian,
yeah,
which is
exactly.
nice.
Which is great information, but that's not information you're ever allowed to repeat.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and people, oh, okay, so the one other thing, and this is, I think, a little less common than it was during COVID when things were so stupid competitive, is some buyers will send letters along with their offer of, oh, we're such a sweet, whatever family, and we really love your house, and da da da. I try to discourage this. If they're giving to me, I have to give them over, and I don't encourage my buyers to. I sometimes encourage my buyers to do it, but at the end of the day, you end up opening a can of worms with that as to what was contained in there that might have affected the seller's decision. Blah 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 blah. So I really discourage those as much as possible. I just tell my seller, who the heck do you care who's living in your house? You care about the number on the check.
Yeah.
That's what you care about. And yes,
Yeah.
put your sentimentality aside. This is a bank transaction. So anyway,
Yeah.
that's it.
Okay. Okay. Well, again, appreciate the time and info, and I will keep you posted. I'm
Yep.
sure I'm
And
gonna have more
actually, do me a
questions.
favor, text me your mailing address. I'm sure I have it somewhere, but just text it to me so on Monday I can wrap up one of the signs and I can just get it down to you.
Yeah.
Obviously, I have no idea if I send it post office, even if I priority it, you'll see it when you see it. I don't have a
Yeah.
great answer because I know if I take it to FedEx, it'll be like $100. Now, there's absolutely nothing wrong in the interim if you just put a Home Depot sign out front, or whatever. And I'll also send you a link to where I get my signs if you're like, hey, it's just easier to get one, but
That.
I'll still send you one anyway.
Yeah. Please do that. Yeah, that'll work.
All right, cool. All right, thanks.
All right. Thanks, Steve. Later,
Yep,
man.
good luck. Yep,
Bye.
bye. Okay, so I'm just switching back to sort of completing the listing document side of the equation on the recording. If you're doing an MLS listing, this is when we use these contracts. And consumer notice, they have one for the listing side and they have one for the buyer side. Honestly, I've never found the distinction difference between them. I've never compared them word by word, but basically. And right here in dot loop, they exist. This is truthfully, this is the document. As soon as you have a substantive conversation with the seller, you should be giving it to them. No one ever does, but it definitely should go with the agreement of sale. This is an optional one, the consumer services fee addendum, um, which I don't provide any of these, so I don't use it because I don't necessarily. I'll help them get it done if they're required to, but I just don't want to be in the middle of stuff. Consumer guide to the agreement of sale. This is a pamphlet that just tells them what's in the agreement of sale. And there are Spanish versions of everything. I don't know if there's any other languages, but it's definitely Spanish. Here's your listing contract. Exclusive right to sell. Exclusive right to sell means it doesn't matter who brings the buyer, we get paid. And I think this is around the time we picked up the other recording. This is a required one. Um, Broker fees, seller will pay broker fees pay percentage. This is the one. Um, I was just looking for this for Chris, so I'm going to take a picture of it for him right here. This is the important one, and I personally use 25%. So that if the sale does not occur and the seller gets the deposit, we get some little drippings coming our way. How I handle the split of the drippings with you will depend on certain circumstances. But the point is, if the seller is keeping a deposit, we've done something. Because very often when a seller keeps a deposit, the deal falls apart. Seller is pissed at us, even if we did nothing wrong. So, and either way, we have time into it. By the time we get a property under deposit, a lot of work's been done. If the deal falls apart and the seller keeps the deposit, we get something. This one here is how many days after if your contract expires for whatever reason, and then the same buyer that saw it during your contract comes back within, I use 270 days, um, we still get paid. That was designed for, I'll be right out, Bandit. That was designed for near the end of a contract. Seller says to buyer during the showing, listen, don't make an offer till the contract's over. And then a week later, contract's over and they make a deal and you've made nothing. Always protect yourself there. Cooperating compensation, what are they offering a seller? What are they offering a buyer's agent, rather? They don't have to. There's no requirement. Seller concessions, da 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 da. You walk through the rest of this. We will go through this in detail. Um, are they offering any other concessions, any repair estimates, repair coverages, anything like that? Um, the only other Bandit, wait. The only other one you have to do, so you have to do the lead disclosure. You have to give them the protected family from lead in your home, and you have to do the seller disclosure. I do those after the contract is signed. The only one I do with the contract is I do seller estimate of costs. This says to them, you are listing it for $200,000. Here's your expected expenses. You're going to make less than $200,000 because your $200,000 is your sale price. Here are the things you're spending, and on the other side, this is what you're going to make. The point of the estimated cost is to tell the seller, hey, you've agreed to 200,000. You're not walking out with 200,000. You're walking out with something less. You're telling the buyer, hey, you bought it for 200,000. You're not buying it for 200,000. You're buying it for more. You're paying transfer tax, broker fees, whatever. Anyway, that's a quick rundown. Sorry, the dog kind of distracted me. I think I wanted to go further on some things, but that's a quick rundown. Thanks. Bye.